She texts back in 4 minutes, then in 4 hours. She leans into you on the couch, then finds a reason to get up and do the dishes. She says, "I'm fine," with her arms crossed and her eyes somewhere else. You're sitting there, phone in hand, rereading the same 3 messages, like they're a locked door, and you're missing the key. Why does she keep doing this? Is she losing interest, or am I imagining it? Do I text her again, or do I wait? Am I overthinking, or am I finally paying attention for the first time? Wait. Here's the part almost nobody says out loud. Mixed signals are rarely a woman changing her mind about you. Most of the time, they're a woman managing her own nervous system in real time. And you're reading the surface of a wave without ever looking at what's moving underneath it. You're not bad at reading her. You're not too sensitive, too much, or too far behind. Every man who has ever loved a woman who felt hard to read has stood exactly where you're standing right now, staring at a phone, trying to translate silence into meaning. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which signal you keep misreading. And more importantly, why your brain is wired to misread it every single time. Let's get into it. Most guys believe mixed signals mean a woman is confused about how she feels. But the real truth is almost the opposite. She's often not confused about her feelings at all. She's regulating how much of herself feels safe to show you, moment to moment, based on signals you don't even know you're sending. Her nervous system is reading you before her mind can catch up. A tone shift in your voice, a glance at your phone mid-conversation, a joke that lands slightly off. None of it registers to you as anything. But her body clocks it in under a second, and it changes what she's willing to reveal next. But for most women, closeness works more like a dimmer. But her body, it rises and falls based on whether she feels emotionally safe right now, not whether she likes you in general. What looks like pulling away is often someone protecting something tender, not someone deciding you're not worth the risk. And once you see this pattern, you'll start noticing it everywhere. In her texts, in her silences, in the exact moment she goes quiet at dinner. Here's where it shows up first. Here's the part no one talks about. The way she texts isn't a mood. It's a mirror. Most guys track reply speed like a stock ticker. Fast means good. Slow means bad. And every dip sends them spiraling. They read the gap in minutes instead of the shift in tone. But here's what nobody explains. Reply speed usually tracks her bandwidth, not her interest. A woman who's excited but overwhelmed at work will still think about you all day, and still take 6 hours to say so. Her attention and her affection are not the same meter. Picture this. Monday, she replies in 90 seconds, full sentences, an exclamation point she didn't need to use. Thursday, same guy, same tone from him, and she replies 4 hours later with, "Haha, yeah." He spends the afternoon rewriting the message in his head, wondering what he did, what actually happened. She had 3 deadlines and a fight with her sister, and his message sat in a notification tray next to 11 others she hasn't opened either. Somewhere in that 4-hour gap, her mind quietly registers. I'll get to him when I can actually be present, not half there. And when you stop measuring the relationship in reply time, and start asking what her week actually looks like, you stop chasing a signal that was never about you in the first place. That's the shift that ends the guessing game before it starts. But it's not the only place this whiplash shows up. This is where it gets really interesting. Most guys read physical closeness as a single data point. She leaned in, so she's interested. She pulled back, so she's not. She can be attracted to you and still physically retreat the second the topic gets too real, too fast, or too public. Picture the coffee shop. She's leaning across the table, laughing, her hand near yours on the wood. You make a joke about when we're official, half serious, and without a word, she sits back, picks up her cup, holds it with both hands like a small shield. Nothing in her face changed. Everything in her posture did. In that half second, something in her says, "That's real. I need a second before I can want that out loud." Now picture the same moment, handled differently. The joke never lands as a test. It lands as an offer. No pressure behind it. The joke never lands as a test. The difference isn't the topic. It's whether her body sensed a demand or an invitation. That's when the physical space between two people stops feeling like a test she's failing and starts feeling like a room she gets to choose to stay in. And once you can read the room instead of the romance, you're ready for the signal that confuses men the most. Here's the one most couples never figure out. Most men take, "I'm fine" at face value. Or worse, they assume it's always a trap, a test with a hidden right answer they're supposed to guess, so they either drop it entirely or interrogate her until she actually is fine. Just fine and exhausted. But the deeper truth is this: "I'm fine" is rarely a lie. It's usually a woman deciding, in real time, whether naming the real feeling is worth the risk of being dismissed, minimized, or turned into a problem to fix, rather than a person to understand. Not more questions. Not what's wrong, repeated 4 times. Not silently sulking until she caves. But one specific thing. Noticing out loud, without demanding an explanation. Picture it 2 ways. Version 1. He says, "You're being weird." Arms crossed, already defensive. She exhales before she even speaks. Her brain is quietly registering. He noticed, and he's not making it worse. That's the moment fine stops being a wall and starts being a door left slightly open. And what happens next depends entirely on whether you knock gently or kick it in. Which brings us to the signal underneath almost every fight you've ever had. And this is the one most couples never figure out until years in. Most guys treat every disagreement as being about its actual content. The dishes, the plans, the tone of a text, so they defend the content, point by point, wondering why logic isn't landing. But here's what nobody explains. By the time she's raising her voice about dishes in the sink, the dishes stopped being the subject 4 sentences ago. The real signal underneath is usually some version of, "Do I still matter to you when it's inconvenient?" Not louder explanations. Not a perfectly reasonable timeline of who did what chore when. Not, "well actually," but one thing underneath all of it, the felt experience of being deprioritized, dressed up as a complaint about a sink. Picture the kitchen. He's listing, calmly, factually, every time he's done the dishes this month. She's not hearing a single number. She's hearing, underneath it, "You're making this about being right, instead of about me." Now picture the same kitchen. Different response. He stops mid-sentence, actually looks at her, and says, "This feels bigger than dishes. What's actually going on?" And something in her unclenches before she's even said the real thing. Something in her says, "He's finally looking for me, instead of for the win." That's the moment an argument stops being a courtroom and starts being a conversation between 2 people who are both just trying to feel chosen. And once you can hear what a fight is actually about, you're ready for the signal that looks the most like rejection, and usually isn't. Read that again, because this is the one that breaks most relationships that didn't need to break. Most men experience a partner's sudden need for space as the beginning of the end. Proof that the connection is fading, that she's checking out, that distance now means distance forever. But the deeper truth is that space, for a lot of women, is not the opposite of closeness. It's a form of self-repair that makes closeness sustainable. Emotional distance in a relationship isn't like a wall going up overnight. It's like scar tissue, forming slowly over 100 small moments that never got fully repaired, until one day she needs quiet, just to hear herself think again. Picture this. She says she needs a night alone, and he spirals. Text twice, then 3 times. "Did I do something? Are we okay?" Each message landing like a hand on a door she's trying to close gently. Now picture the version where he says, "Take the time you need, I'm not going anywhere," and puts the phone face down. She comes back the next day lighter, not further away. Her mind quietly registers, "He didn't punish me for needing air. That's rare. That's safe." This isn't a technique for winning her back faster. This is just what it looks like when someone has learned to love without needing constant reassurance to feel secure in it. And that kind of steadiness is exactly what turns the final signal, the quietest one, into the clearest one you'll ever read. Here's where it gets really interesting. Because this signal is the one almost every guy reads backward. Most men interpret a quiet partner as a disengaged one. No words means no investment. No messages means nothing's happening. But here's what changes everything. Her nervous system in conflict works like a smoke detector. It cannot always tell the difference between your raised voice and actual danger. So sometimes it sounds the alarm regardless, and shuts everything down. What looks like stonewalling is often someone who's been overwhelmed for so long that silence is the only defense she has left. Picture the car ride home from the party. He's asking question after question, needing an answer right now, and she's staring out the window, jaw tight, saying nothing, not because she doesn't care, but because she's flooded, and speaking right now would come out as something she doesn't mean. Now picture him instead saying, "We don't have to talk about it right now. I'll be here when you're ready," and reaching over just to hold her hand, nothing more. Something in her softens, and she thinks, "He's not afraid of my silence. That means I don't have to be either." That's the moment. Silence stops meaning distance, and starts meaning safety. The felt sense that she doesn't have to perform okayness to stay connected to you. And that brings us to the truth that ties every single one of these signals together. This is the part no one talks about, and it's the one that changes how you read everything else in this video. Most men are looking for a decoder, a fixed rule that turns her words, her tone, her silence, into a certain answer. So they chase certainty, point by point, hoping enough data will finally make her predictable. But the deeper truth is that mixed signals aren't a code to crack. They're a nervous system, telling you, in real time, exactly how safe it feels, and that safety isn't static. It moves with how you respond to the version of her that isn't polished, isn't easy, and isn't performing certainty for your comfort. Not a better line, not more patience as a strategy, not decoding her faster than she can surprise you, but something simpler and harder, becoming the kind of presence her body doesn't have to brace against. Picture the whole relationship as one long conversation instead of 100 separate tests. Every time you meet her uncertainty with steadiness instead of your own anxiety, her nervous system logs one more piece of evidence. This is safe. Every time you demand clarity she doesn't have yet, it logs the opposite. Over months, that's not a mood. That's a pattern. And the pattern is what you're actually in a relationship with. Her whole body, over time, starts to believe, I don't have to manage him. I can just be honest. That's the moment. Mixed signals stop appearing altogether, not because she got easier to read, but because she stopped needing to protect herself from being read wrong. Go back to that first scene. You on the couch, phone in hand, rereading the same 3 messages like a locked door. Look at it again. It was never a lock. It was never a code. It was a woman regulating her own safety in real time, and a man who didn't yet know that was even the question being asked. This isn't a checklist for decoding her faster. It's an invitation to become the kind of partner her nervous system doesn't have to brace against, and that changes everything about what becomes possible between you. Mixed signals aren't a mystery to solve. They're a relationship asking you to slow down enough to actually see it. If you want to know exactly what to say the next time she goes quiet, and you don't know why, that's the video I made right after this one. Whichever signal hit closest to home tonight, the silence, the space, the fight that was never about the dishes, you already know, and now, so does she.